Hi everybody, welcome to our next session, which is called How to Set Up and Deliver a Disaster Risk Financing System, the Pinnacles and Pitfalls. So we're joined today in this session by Nelly, who is our Disaster Risk Financing Regional Coordinator for Southern and East Africa, with Arvin Caro, who is our DRF coordinator for the Philippines, and Shofil Alam, who is our DRF and Start Funds manager for Bangladesh. So before we start today and have some discussions with everybody around their experience of developing these systems across whole networks in each of those countries, I'm just going to give a short introduction to what disaster risk financing is for anybody who is new to it. And also to say, my name is Claire Harris. I'm the head of crisis anticipation and risk financing at Start Network. So for anyone who doesn't or is new to disaster risk financing, it's essentially made up of three key components. The first component being the central one, which is pre-agreed plans. So this is where our network of members and local organizations across the country will come up with plans of what they'll want to do, when they'll want to do it, and how much it would cost. The second area is around analyzing, setting triggers for that disbursement of that funding and for those plans to be put into action. And that evolves around risk analytics and different types of data that are used to set those triggers. And then the last area of risk financing is pre-agreed financing or pre-positioned financing, where money is set so that once that trigger or that data threshold is met, the money automatically is dispersed to those plans across a whole network within a country. So members collectively decide in advance what they want to do, when they want to do it, and how, and then the mechanisms put in place to allow that to happen. So building a disaster risk financing system at a country level is not a small task, as I think our guests will kind of outline. So to build out contingency plans, often across many districts with many actors and members, is a large amount of work to do. Equally, building out analytics and risk data using things like satellites, on the ground measurements, as well as community data, again, has many stakeholders that have to be involved and lots of new sorts of thinking in the work we do. And then, as many of you will know, with working within a network takes a lot of operational agreements on how we work together, how we hold each other to account, and then how we agree that we will act and work together for people at risk to be better protected. So these are the key areas that everybody will be talking on the panel about today. So essentially, the way that disaster risk financing and our new Start Ready risk pool should work is that essentially the risk analytics send an alarm through the data that then tells all of the agencies in the country that something's happening and something needs to happen. The money is then automatically dispersed to meet the needs and disperse within those contingency plans. So that's essentially how Start Ready and our country-based disaster risk financing works. So now I'm going to hand over to each of our panelists to introduce themselves and to give us a very quick overview of how they've built out disaster risk financing systems through the network in each of their countries. So Arvin, if I hand to you first.
Thanks, Claire. Yeah, so next, please. So yeah, I'm Arvin Caro. I'm the Disaster Risk Finance Coordinator for the Philippines. And for the Philippines, we are building a tropical cyclone DRF system. This started mainly at the last quarter of 2020 when there are lots of start fund alerts that were not being activated in relation to tropical cyclones. And this is how the members in country have sort of banded together and expressed the interest in developing a DRF system. So in 2021, we started to develop the strategy for the DRF system. So this is mainly identifying or prioritizing a specific hazard, which tropical cyclone is the one. And then we followed in terms of the financial flow and the gaps and the exposure of the different areas in the Philippines. Now, in 2022, we've started the development of the DRF system through the building blocks of Start Network. Basically, right now we have enhanced the model together with the Red Cross 510. So this is a tropical cyclone model that is actually being used as well by Surf AA and the Red Cross FBF. So in the Philippines, we have that kind of synergy in terms of the model that we are using currently. And then we have just finished the contingency plans in the Philippines for the initial pilot areas. So next, please, Claire. So just showing to you that how we identified the areas, mainly we identified it based on the gaps in terms of funding, the exposure of to cyclones in local government areas, the local government capacity. And as you can see here, the the different areas that were identified is in Cagayan Valley, Eastern Samar, and Taganaan, uh, in Surigao del Norte. And mainly, the strategy for the Philippines is to enable local actors as well to be part of this DRF system. As you can see here, there are some local NGOs as part of the implementing actors for the DRF system in the Philippines. Back to you, Claire.
Thanks. Thanks very much, Arvin. It's really helpful to see the extent of the system in the Philippines. And if I could hand over to Shofil in Bangladesh to give us a bit of an overview of the system there, that would be great.
Okay, thank you, Claire. So my name is Shofil Alom. I'm managing Start Fund Bangladesh as well as DRF program in Bangladesh. So in Bangladesh, study reports for multi-hazard risk analysis, financial flow analysis, and also we have household economic analysis that help Start Fund members to determine the potential hazard where Bangladesh can develop DRF system mechanism. Thus, consultation were held with the SFB members who, from their expertise, written then on the flood and cyclone DRF should be prioritized for the DRF in Bangladesh. And also riverbank erosion as well as the landslide also come out as a potential for DRF. Since 2021, flood disaster DRF building block has initiated in Bangladesh, and this year we have completed the building block process and applied for the start ready. DRF model has been developed by JBA with support from 41BD and CARF as well as the expert from the country. So far what has been done so far, currently flood disaster risk financing building block has been completed, as I said, and we have developed 4 district level contingency plan as well as model has been developed and monitoring and continued for threshold. Over 450 community consultation held to identify the anticipatory actions is include readiness and early response action that are appropriate for disaster risk financing threshold timeframes. A governance committee has been decided on what has been working for the Start Fund Bangladesh. They will continue to act as governance committee for disaster risk financing mechanism as well. So we also have a coordination with 23 members, HCTT UN, Government Line Department, and Ministry of Disaster Management as well. Start ready funds secured in first pool for National Reserve and Disaster Management. So looking ahead, if I say that SFB with the support from our members, UNRC office, cluster working group, as well as non-start members, and with the technical partnership with the Nirapod, we are now developing the cyclone disaster risk financing mechanism. We came to ensure engagement of government in DRF for sustainability of the mechanism. DRF model for the cyclone being developed by IWFM and 41 expert. MOA has been signed with the Bangladesh Meteorological Association Department as a government body, as well as the support us in forecasting information sharing. Accountability and safeguarding disaster risk financing study report to be developed in upcoming days for ensuring disaster risk financing system is holistic and addressing all type of accountability and safeguarding standard. Moreover, we will be planning to review and also review and updating the flood contingency plan by March next year. Over to Claire.
Thanks, Shafil, for that whistle-stop tour of the Bangladesh system. And next, if I could ask Nelly, if you could give us an outline of where the systems are in Zimbabwe.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good morning, good day, wherever you are. So my name is Nelly Maonde. I'm the Start Network regional advisor based in Zimbabwe, and I cover East and Southern Africa. So I support in terms of the setting up of our disaster risk financing system. I will just start by saying that, so for Zimbabwe, we are looking at a national system for drought. We have partnered, or we are working in partnership with the Africa Risk Capacity and African Union member states in terms of helping to support them and basically contribute to support and help them to improve their capacities to plan, prepare, and respond to extreme weather events such as drought. So I wanted to say today, I want to focus on Zimbabwe, but just to say that the Start Network is supporting several African Union member states. We started this pilot in Senegal, and then Zimbabwe was the second country. Now we are in the process of actually rolling out the plans with Somalia. So as an overview, Zimbabwe is prone to droughts, in fact, severe droughts. And the traditional approach has been around taking a reactive approach when there's a drought. When drought manifests, then humanitarian agencies then are all rushing to work around contributing to the appeal process, which we know sometimes takes time, and sometimes it rarely gets funded when there are other demands around the globe in terms of other disasters. Then you end up not getting the financing that you need. So with this initiative that the Start Network is supporting, we are able to actually help in bringing in appropriate layered risk management to some of these ongoing risks like drought, and then be able to provide pre-arranged financing once the disaster manifests. So we joined the Africa Risk Capacity as the replica partner for Zimbabwe. That was in 2021 in August, and the government had already started involving themselves in the initiative, but again with a limited coverage because they can only cover so much. They then brought on board UNWFP. But also when we then came on board, we were able to cover a bigger proportion of the country, where we actually are able to respond when up to 25% of the population is affected. So in terms of the model, so we are using what is called the Africa Risk View. So this is basically a satellite-based model that helps us to be able to identify, monitor, and analyze like how drought is affecting the different regions of Africa, and then be able to actually understand how it's progressing, and then quantify in terms of the losses, the impacts that it has on the population, and then that again gets calculated into the response cost. And whilst we are monitoring the season using the whole Africa Risk View, we are then able to plan. In this case, we have the government and then the replica partner as two entities to have a higher coverage, like ensure that we're able to reach the entire country. So with us as the Start Network, we then plan with our members, but working in collaboration with the government in terms of like national planning. So we were able to do that from August 2021 for the 2021 to 2022 agricultural season. But it turned out to be not kind of a moderate drought season, and hence the model did not trigger. However, we had already planned for moderate drought as well, using the Start Ready model, which we had set at lower thresholds. And so that one triggered, and responses are underway as we speak in around 5 regions of the country. So what is colored there in green is where we are currently supporting with early responses to drought. So we are looking at early response to drought from July, September, October, before the lean season kicks in. We do also a lot of support to the government, aside just the whole like covering, additional coverage. We are then able also to bring in skills and technical support to the government in terms of making sure that these models work. Looking ahead, I think what we'll be discussing is around how much time is involved in this. We have done one round and we're looking at consolidating all this, but also providing ongoing support to the different structures that we're working with, the government and the other stakeholders. Thank you.
Thank you, Nelly. That was great. I'm just going to finish the slides now, and I'm going to ask all of you a few questions, if that's okay, that you can hopefully share with the with everybody online. Great. So Arvin, if I could come to you first. So what do you feel is like the most important pillar when starting out in building a disaster risk financing system with all the members and local organizations in a country?
Sure, Claire. I think the way to, in terms of the most important component in developing a DRF system is really investing time. A DRF system, in a way, has a, if I may say, compared to start fund response alerts or even the anticipation, it has a longer gestation period. For a system like us in the Philippines, we have barely 72 hours as a lead time. So we can't really discuss and explain to the government, to the beneficiaries, all of the systems behind it, and do it in that 72-hour lead time. So we really need to ensure that there's ample amount of time for us to build the system and for it to be really ready to be to launch into a financing system. And this, I think, would in a way range between 18 to 24 months. That's the way I see it in terms of planning the developing a DRF system. This would consider your model development, social preparations, basically just the general understanding of DRF. This takes time for us to in a way coordinate and socialize with everyone. Yeah, Claire, Nelly, maybe Nelly has another point.
Yeah, if I could pass to Nelly, and I know also Amadou, who is our regional coordinator for West Africa, has also joined us, who has built out the Senegal system as well. Nelly first, and then maybe Amadou, you could come in as well on what you feel is the really important element in terms of successful disaster risk financing.
Yeah, sure. I want to start by saying I can't agree more with Elvin. I think for drought is a slow onset, but still the time factor comes in that you are building systems. So you have to make sure that your multi-stakeholders have an understanding of where this is coming from. You have to engage lots of stakeholders and allow for them to really understand and have a shared vision. It's not something that you can rush, even for slow onset risk like drought. But I wanted to also say that I think in our case, because we're looking at this one national model, working with the member states, with the governments, we then realized that as well, that even much as we already had a framework, like our building blocks framework, we had to also realize that if you're looking at national systems, you have to look at also alignment of what you're doing. So some things, it's just not about us as Start Network saying, okay, we are doing this, we're building a system. We're looking at a national system, we're engaging with the government and other stakeholders. So that as well requires alignment. So for example, developing a disaster risk financing strategy, we then realized, okay, we actually have to look at a national strategy that is a multi-stakeholders, a broader vision of the country, and then we will have a subset. And so we are currently trying to support initiatives around building that national DRF strategy, and then move on to like, okay, how do we fit into that? Yeah, I think that's what I can add. Thank you.
Thanks, Nelly. Amadou, would you like to jump in and add to that? Oh, I think we might have lost him. I'll move on to Shofil. Oh, no, there you are, Amadou.
Yes, thank you very much, Claire. Hello, everyone. So my name is Amadou Diallo. I am the Regional Disaster Risk Financing Coordinator based in Senegal. Basically, what I would say is that if you look at the disaster risk financing systems we put in place, we have to really take in consideration that most of the structures that we find in place already that we will be building the system on are very, very conservative. I will just take the example of the yearly assessments that are done to estimate vulnerability, in the different countries where we are working, to see that those ways of assessing have been the same for the last 20 years. So it's very important when we look at the context we are evolving right now. If you look at the 2-3 past years, how the world has completely been changed regarding the disasters that happened. If you take the COVID-19 pandemic, then the Ukraine-Russia crisis, and how it really has changed so many things at so many levels for people's livelihoods, raising fuel prices, how that impacted the industries and the price of commodities, and the daily life of billions of people. So really what we need to keep in mind is the disaster risk financing systems we build must really be open for adaptive change and really be agile, because if we put in place a system, we have to keep in mind that how can we reinforce and strengthen the system and really have a very, very clear process on how we work and we integrate learnings as we go. Because if you can see, if you have a system, COVID came, the system fails, then you have to build a new system. Then you have the Ukraine crisis and the system collapses, and then you have to rebuild another system. That wouldn't really be sustainable. So we really need to come together and understand that the systems we build need to be strong enough to resist and be resilient when disaster or crisis happen. Thank you, Claire.
Thank you, Amadou. I'll just move on to Shofil now. Would you like to reflect on one, what you think is the kind of key element in terms of building out disaster risk financing systems, but also how that can be done in a really locally led way as well, Shofil?
Okay, so thanks, Claire. So I must say about that, we really need kind of a study and research for understanding the context in terms of like risks and vulnerabilities of the country. Then also we need to look the government policies, strategy, and the financial flow before initiating the DRF system in a country. That's the key thing. So regarding the second part of question, I think you are most talking about that, how can we develop it more locally led, right? So all the time we're asking about the start is a kind of a platform where key is a community engagement as well as members engaged in the process. So that's the very key to locally led, develop the locally led systems. However, so through the community consultation of the local people, the readiness and early action intervention were identified. We know about it. It's a part of our system. Also, the local government need to involve in a process that could be more locally led. Then the intervention also need to identify kind of through a process where member can participate and member can support to community to identify the actions, and actually that which is part of the making them more locally led and built. Over to Claire.
Thank you, Shofil. I have a few more questions left, but I do see there's quite a lot coming in the text. Just to say, over the next few days, the CAF team, Crisis Anticipation Risk Financing team, who work on all of these systems, will be around at the assembly and able to answer all of the questions if we don't get to them, including at the marketplace. So apologies if we don't get to all of the questions. Yeah, could I hand that question as well over to Nelly and then back to Arvin around how do we really make sure that we create these systems in a locally led way?
I think for me is to, if we're talking about locally led, it's around how do we allow the at-risk communities to have a voice to guide us on really what kind of help they need, as opposed to us proposing that there's drought. Now they need cash transfer. If I take, for instance, the current project that we're running, yes, we always say that if the markets are functional, why not cash? But sometimes they will tell us something different. So we need to be a learning organization. We need to keep listening to what we are hearing from the communities. We are advantaged that, like in Zimbabwe, for instance, we are working with both international and local organizations that are really grounded in the communities and can understand the nuances of things. So the ability for us to really bring that learning into the designs of these disaster risk financing systems is very critical. Sometimes we do have frameworks that we already have set, but there's always surprises on the ground. And my take is that we need to be open to adapting our program, like Amadou also already mentioned, to what is the feedback that we're getting. The preferences that they're telling us are more ideal. And I think for me, that just defines how complex it is to set up a system that it's not a straight line, it's not a few weeks process. We have to allow for all this kind of feedback and adapt our programs accordingly. Thank you.
Yeah, Claire. From my end, having this locally led DRF systems, it's really about the social preparation needed for the communities. And when we talk about the communities, this is not just the village, the villages that we are working in. It's not just the people who will receive the aid. This is an entire ecosystem composed of our members, the local NGOs, your national government, local government, the beneficiaries themselves, and even their neighbors. All of this needs to be socially prepared so that they are able to understand how does the system work, and how can we actually provide the appropriate needs that they would be giving to us, or telling us that it's really the people who needs to be prepared, and at the same time they are the ones who need to in a way to tell us what they need to for us to address. Yeah.
Thanks so much, guys. I'm aware that we've only got 2 minutes left, so I am going to have to wrap our very short session up today. There are a couple of questions that I can give a very quick feedback to. So some of you have asked around, why can't we do this in our country? We've got things ready, we could do this. At the moment, like I've said before in the chat, to build out these systems takes a lot of time and investment, and it takes resources as well. We're building out analytic systems that have never existed before in some cases. So yes, the will is there. However, we have to have a strategy of taking things relatively slowly based on what funding Start Network actually has to support networks. Having said that, we do have a training program, and we do have the building blocks framework and resources available for all of our network if there was the will to get started without the support of the CAF team. But having said that, it is, like we said, a big lift. But I'd like to thank the panelists today from the CAF team, and as is our style, we have talked at length on the panel. But yeah, catch us. A lot of us will be around the next few days at the actual assembly if any of you are attending in person. So please do feel free to grab any of us and come and ask us whatever questions would be helpful. So thanks everybody for joining, and I hope that was useful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.